And welcome back to Hannity, and it's time for our next installment of the real Barack Obama. Now, the president's re-election spin team knows that President Obama cannot run on his record if he wants to win in November. So instead, they are distorting the reality of his so-called accomplishments. Let's take a look.
After inheriting a $1 trillion deficit, I signed $2 trillion of spending cuts into law. Since I've been president, federal spending has risen at the lowest pace in nearly 60 years. Think about that. And we've seen over 4 million jobs created. And we've seen more manufacturing jobs created at any time since the 1990s. Change is the decision we made to rescue the auto industry from collapse, even when there were folks saying no and wanting to let Detroit go bankrupt. And now 1 million jobs were saved and local businesses are picked up again. Already over the past 2 years, our businesses have added almost 4 million new jobs. The recovery is accelerating. Our economy is getting stronger.
Now, luckily, on this program, we are calling them out and separating fact from fiction. And here to set the record straight tonight is House Budget Committee Chairman, the guy that wants to throw Granny over the cliff, the man himself, I'm sorry, Congressman, you're probably sick of that, but
I'm used to it. It's okay.
It's all right.
Hi, Sean.
All right, is there anything that we just played of the president saying, as we separate fact from fiction, anything that he said there, did he create 4 million new jobs?
Look, you can torture statistics long enough, and I guess they'll confess to whatever you want them to cough up to. Look, if the labor participation rate were the same today as it was when Barack Obama took office, the unemployment rate would be about 11% today. The president has given us such an abysmal economy. Look at just last Friday's job statistics. It's terrible. Unemployment went up. More people are leaving the workforce. We have the most stagnant economic recovery we've had since World War II. And government spending as a share of the economy, which is the key measurement, is the highest it's been since World War II. All
right, now, the president says that federal spending has risen at the lowest pace in nearly 60 years. Congressman, this is what you do. You read the budgets. Is that true, or is that a falsehood?
It's so completely false. They got some columnists that cooked the books to give them that number, which it's been thoroughly discredited. The president has roughly increased spending by about a fifth from where it historically has been. He gave us a gusher of new spending. He gave us a $4.5 trillion increase in the public debt. That's a 70% increase in the debt just since he's taken office. Sean, the budget he gave us just this year, his fourth budget with a $1 trillion deficit, proposes to increase spending by $1.5 trillion, only to be outdone by a $1.9 trillion tax increase, resulting in a measly $40 billion of deficit reduction on average a year at a time when we're running $1 trillion plus deficits.
All right, so
this is a spending binge we haven't seen the likes in decades in this country.
So I keep asking, are we better off than we were 4 years ago? And are we better off as a country than we were $5 trillion in debt ago? So my question to you is this. If the president's going to go out there and make this case, I don't see how he pulls it off. It just seems like they're just making these facts up as they go. Now, the CBO came out in the last week warning that the national debt will sink America in 15 years.
That's right.
You say it will be faster than that because the bond markets, the debt markets will abandon us, you believe, in 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, so I had a hearing with the CBO just today, and they're saying that the path we are on with the debt levels we are incurring, they don't even know how to measure the economy going forward after the mid-2030s. Because the debt will crash the economy. And what we're saying, and what I believe, and what all the experts that come to testify to the Budget Committee are saying is we got about 2 years before we have a debt crisis like Europe is experiencing. See, what's going to happen is, just like Europe, politicians made all these empty promises, which turned into broken promises. The bond markets turn on you, and you have a debt crisis. Cranking up taxes, cutting benefits for current seniors, slowing down your economy, having a lost decade. We're halfway through a lost decade because of this president's policies. If we stay in the path that he's on, not only will we have a real lost decade, we'll have a lost generation, and I fear we'll have that kind of a debt crisis, which is entirely avoidable. What our budget shows is you can prevent that from happening. We can get the economy growing again, get people back to work, and we can get this budget balanced and this debt paid off, but we need a new president, Mitt Romney, and a new Senate that's willing to lead with us. We proved yesterday in Wisconsin, with Scott Walker's victory, that not only was Scott on the ballot, but so was political courage, and courage won. That tells me that the people are way ahead of the political class. They're not going to buy these tortured statistics. They're not going to buy this status quo that the president's offering them. They want leaders who are going to rise to the challenge and offer us real solutions. That's what we're proposing.
You see, I agree with you. I think political courage won, and also I think people realize that the budget crisis we have, not just in the state of Wisconsin, but around the country, is real.
Right.
All right. What does it mean when Bill Clinton and Lawrence Summers, both of them come out and say that we've got to extend the Bush tax cuts? Clinton suggesting that we're basically in a recession right now, and then Summers also adding that the time for governments to borrow more money is right now. What is your reaction to all those? And really all the Democrats praising Bain on top of that.
Well, I believe Peter Orszag, who was President Obama's first budget director, also said that the tax cuts should be all extended. Larry Summers was his top economic advisor. Larry's a Keynesian, meaning he believes in sort of demand-side stimulus, more borrowing and spending, like the kind of theory that advanced the stimulus. We don't think that worked. The evidence is very clear. But what Keynesians also say, and they agree with those of us who come from sort of the classical free market side of economics, is that the last thing you want to do in a very bad economy like this is crank up tax rates.
Yeah.
So that's where we actually agree on that.
Pretty amazing.
People from the left and the right on economics agree, don't raise taxes in this kind of an economy. The president, though, is so wedded to this class warfare, pitting Americans against each other, that he's willing to trash all the advice he's getting from people in his own party about what it is to do to prevent us from going into recession. The CBO is telling us if these tax increases hit, we'll have a recession, and the president's doubling down on this direction. So we just need a new president. We need new leadership.
I'm worried we may become Greece. Now, if Governor Romney gave you a call and said, Congressman, I'd like you to run with me. Your name is bantered about quite a bit. Your answer would be?
You mean go jogging with him, like go for a run?
All right. Would you go jogging with him to the vice presidency?
I'm not going to comment on any of that stuff.
I didn't think you would.
But I'm not going to get into that.
It's part of my job, Congressman. I mean, you throw Granny over the cliff, and my job is to ask tough questions. But I'm just teasing. Does that bother you about Granny over the cliff, the Paul Ryan lookalike?
You know, it really doesn't, actually. I'm so used to it by now. Scott Walker, we're used to this stuff. This is what they do to us in Wisconsin. If you take on a big challenge, if you offer leadership, and they're offering nothing but demagoguery and no solutions, this is what you get. We're used to it. I'm very comfortable with it because I know I'm putting myself on the right side of history as a person, but more importantly, our party is putting ourselves on the right side of the public by leading, by offering real solutions to prevent a debt crisis, get this economy growing again so people can go back to work.
All right,
and all they're going to offer is fear and envy, and it's just not going to work.
Congressman Paul Ryan, keep up the good work. It's always a pleasure to have you on the program.